because until we make it official and we read all the papers, we're not going to open the challenge. So don't try to go in. You don't have to subscribe going in the challenge. No, the only way to subscribe to a challenge is write your name on the challenge downstairs, okay? But I already took out the papers because you may have this done before you came in. So if you didn't, please come to the front and we'll give you a challenge, okay? Is this clear? Great.
I wrote my name in one of the challenges, but apparently I have to be my own challenge after all.
Porque los
Hello, everybody. It's really pity that I can't be there, so it has to be in a virtual way, but I'm very happy to be with you.
Katia will join us tomorrow because of a flight delay. And now we're going to have a masterclass from Katia talking about the evolution of design thinking. So it's all yours.
Okay. So can you see my PowerPoint?
No.
Probably
We
something here. Let me share my screen now.
Yeah, now we can see it. Yeah.
Can you see everybody? Because now I can't see anything of you.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. So let us start. Hello again. I speak for you a little bit about the evolution of the design thinking concept and models and principles, etc. A kind of introduction for those who are not very familiar with the design thinking, and as you are emerging in these 3 days in a design thinking process, so this is a possibility for you to understand a little bit the origin and how the concept evolved. So the topics we will see is the evolution of the concept, the principles, and also different process models. And I also will present you the evolution 6 square model, which we developed here in Porto at Mindshake, and then give some examples in design thinking applied in business and educational context. So about the concept, you know, and that's because you are in this workshop, that design thinking now is very fashion, and a lot of people want to learn it. A lot of companies finally are opening to get the methodology of design thinking in their normal daily life, company daily life. But of course, when something is fashion and successful, there comes also the critics. So some people are saying, oh, it's all about thinking and you're not doing. But of course, that is nonsense, because of course, it is a lot of thinking, it's imagining new reality, but we are also a lot of doing. You can't think without doing. So it's always a learning by doing process. And you started probably with some exercises. So you immediately will visualize your first ideas, prototype them. So you're always doing something. And after doing, we will also present our results. So actually, the design thinking culture, it comes from the design culture. It's always imagining, doing, and presenting. So that's the first thing I really want to give you as a message. The concept is itself, as we use it today, design thinking, innovation methods, was kind of initiated by Tim Brown in his book Change by Design from 2009. Perhaps some of you know this. And in that book, which he actually wrote for non-designers, he defined design thinking like it's a process which introduces the design methods and also the design culture into fields beyond traditional design, which means graphic design or fashion design or product design, such as business innovation. So design methods came into business innovation, to service innovation, to social innovation, and even and finally also to educational innovation. So let us look a little bit closer to the evolution of the concept. Actually, I put here these 2 pictures because in '92 I started my design studies, and the second year we had design methodology, and I always found what teachers were telling me that design is an optimization process, it's a linear process. I found that also strange. So I started to be interested in the design methodology, and this is until today. So that's me today. Tomorrow you will see me hopefully in live. So we start in the 80s, 90s, and the concept started with design science theorists, so practitioners like Brian Lawson, to write about how designers think. But here in the perspective, how we can, through design education, improve the thinking and doing, of course, of designers. So this concept were used in this way about the cognitive process of designers, also in the book from Peter Roof from '87, and then later even more scientific studies in this really important design magazine, Design Studies. A lot of new papers came out on design thinking, visual design thinking, educational design thinking, etc. So this was an international research group, which is still existing, who studied the cognitive process of a designer. There are these two really important publications. So if you want to go deeper to the research of design thinking, you will read some of the papers in these two publications you find online. So what is it about when we try to understand what designers characteristic of cognitive processes? Designers so different as these three, for example. I don't know if you know them. One is Dieter Rams, a German, really rational designer. In the middle is Stefan Sagmeister. You know perhaps from, if you are interested in graphic design. He's an Austrian designer, but working in the States, in New York. And superstar Philippe Starck, kind of typical French fashion designer. He is working a lot in interior design. So if you look to these three personalities and if you know their work, you understand that it's really difficult to find common points. So what is it about? All these designers, every designer, analyze and try to understand problems of the artificial world, because designers are creating everything which nature is not creating, so the artificial world. And they also try to find new perspectives for well-known realities. So it's all about to find a new frame for a well-known reality. And then they materialize by drawing, by prototyping, by giving material these new frames. And they develop, this is very important, new symbolic meanings. So design thinkers are sense makers. They're giving a new sense, a new meaning, either to products, either to services. What had a really good impact in the end of the 90s was a video done, a film by BBC Nightline, documentary film, about the creative process in the big design agency IDEO. So they filmed during 1 week from the first ideas until a real scale prototype, the creation of a new shopping cart. You can see this video if you don't know it in this link. So just put shopping cart IDEO and you can see this video. It was the first time that a design agency really showed their creative process, so make it transparent. And then they were following a lot of books, articles and books about what is the art of innovation at IDEO. So Tom Kelly, Jonathan Littman, also from IDEO, wrote the first books, then David Kelly and Tim Brown. David Kelly and Tom Kelly, they are the founders of IDEO, and then Tim Brown, the actual CEO. They wrote in the Business Week, The Power of Design, later the 10 Phases of Innovation, and then finally in 2008, the article in the Harvard Business Review, Design Thinking. Actually, it was in 2008 that the first time was used this concept, and thinking as a method for innovation. So all these publications really showed what are designers doing when they create something new. So the focus is always the process. And then the important book, Change by Design, 2009, and then started really a lot of other publications about design thinking, like the Design of Business from Roger Martin, who is the dean or who actually was a dean in the business school in Canada, and then Thomas Lockwood, who invited a lot of researchers about this subject and made a collection of articles in that book from 2010. And then in the years 2010, designers start to say, what is this? They are stealing our methodology and call it design thinking. It's so famous now. So they started also to publish about design thinking, as Alan Lupton, graphic design thinking, or Nigel Cross, design thinking in product design. Actually, in these two books, they wrote what they always wrote in design methodology, but they just call it design thinking. And later, from Idris Mouti, design thinking for strategic innovation. So here it comes really to business innovation, and it's about strategic and management. And then in 2013 also the book from, again, Tom Kelly and David Kelly, Creative Confidence, which here is still about the concept from design thinking, but instead of focusing on the outcome of the process, they are focusing on a secondary outcome, which is a change of the mindset of people who are working with design thinking. So this creates more confidence. So people passing through this process, as you will do in these 3 days, become really more awareness of their own creative capability. So this focus on that. And then finally, 2015, the Harvard Business Review dedicated the whole number to the evolution of design thinking, which in my understanding was the beginning that a lot of business schools started really to take it serious. And now you can find different the business schools which has own disciplines, own courses of design thinking. So we can see now we can understand design thinking like thinking, doing, and culture, which leads to new realities and to innovation, to a lot of kind of innovations, semantic innovations. That's when we create another chair, another window, another jewelry, etc. And then technology innovation, they are connected both. Then also service innovation, business innovation. So now we really can say we are designing a new business model. This is really new. It was really new in until 2015. And also social innovation. And I said a little bit ago, finally also educational innovation. Actually, innovation should start education, but unfortunately, it is education itself, which is, I would say, the last entity who has really no understanding that the whole educational system has to be innovated because it's completely overdone. I'm sure that in Elisava this is not the case. Actually, a lot of design schools are starting this innovation process, but all the traditional university system really has to reinvent itself, because it's not giving education for tomorrow. It's giving education for perhaps today, but mostly yesterday. Design thinking is only coming to education as being applied in it, but there are also own design thinking school. The first was created in 2005 by the Hasso-Plattner Institute, related to the University of Stanford. Hasso-Plattner was born, and I think he still lives in Potsdam, nearby Berlin. 2007, he thought, okay, let us also create in my city a D school, which now actually grows a lot. In 2012 was there the first DCOM festival. People from all over the world shared their experience in design thinking. And again, last year in 2017, it was the second DCOM festival, again in Berlin, in Potsdam. In the middle, there was the launch of the Paris Est D School. So what we are assisting now, that several countries and cities also tried to create or to associate their schools to the D School. And then to speak a little bit about design in education. There were the last 3 years a project, a European project financed by Erasmus, strategic partnership, which called Design Thinking Applied in HEY and VET education, higher education institutions and vocal education training. So this was a project I actually coordinated with different partners, 7 European partners. And I just want to show you the goals were redesign educational systems, develop new educational contents and tools, and also change the educator's mindset. And yeah, we had 3 research outcomes. The first year, the outcome was a research report, which I will show you, a toolkit. In the second year and the third year was an M-Learning course. So this research report you find if you go to the site of the project, which is www.dthink.eu. You find in Food for Thought the research report to download. You can do that. And also you will find in several languages, including Spanish, the DThink toolkit. You can see here the content. Actually, let me show. This is the overview of the content, and you see there's the introduction, but then the whole toolkit is divided in 3 contexts. So there's the context 1, 2, 3, and in each educational context there are 2 scenarios. So in total 6 scenarios, all related with the educational system. So inside it looks like this. First is explained the context and the scenario, and then are coming a proposal of tools which can be used. And the second and the third outcome is the M-Learning course, the platform, which also you can access through the website. So there you will have additional videos and explications how to use the toolkit. Okay, coming back to our concept. I guess you know this man. I can't see you, so I can't see if you are putting in affirmative faces, but I'm sure a lot of you know Ferran Adrià. He is this famous cook and a creative person from El Bulli. El Bulli, as you perhaps know, or as you certainly know, was a restaurant, but now it's a bigger project. Yeah, it's they are doing labs, but creating also the Bulli Foundation, dedicated not only for innovating all the part of alimentation and cooking, but also creativity itself. So I brought you Ferran because I think that every professional, don't matter from what, from medicine, from advocates, from wherever, can be a design thinker. And why? Or when? Always when he or she discovers new opportunities, as for example Ferran did when he understood that in the winter months the restaurant was closed, was not hadn't a lot of visits. So then they thought, oh, that is a problem, but it could be an opportunity. We close it and use it as a creative laboratory, and that really helps them to get more famous with this new proposal they developed there. And also when we think in variety, in possibilities and multiple perspectives, what they affirmatively do, and when we operate against well-known solutions, of course by experimentation, so also by a lot of failure, a lot of trying out, making better, and yeah, to reinvent, for example, why the soup has to be liquid. Soup can be another consistence, as we found in El Bulli. So it's also a lot thinking against stereotypes. So really to look for something completely different. Which are the principles of design thinking? We take again El Bulli and Ferran. So the first principle is design thinking is a human-centered approach. Of course, in cooking, the first tests you do with yourself, but then you can test it also with some clients, get feedback, and then to make it better. So it's a development of empathy. Then a lot of collaboration, not only with your team, but also with other stakeholders. So it's design thinking is always collective and participatory, experimental, making mistakes, trying out a lot of new things. Then divergent. Divergent means to think in quantity, not only in quality. Actually, quality comes from a lot of quantity. So the first ideas we have are obvious, as typical. So if you produce a lot of ideas, so quantity, the quality, which means originality, will come with the numbers of producing. You will try this out, I'm certain, tomorrow. Then visualization. Images help us to think. Designers are always drawing, but you see also a cook can draw. Perhaps not very nicely if we look to these drawings, but with the time he got so many drawings that now actually in some galleries they are selling his drawings. But of course the drawing for him is a way to share ideas or aesthetical proposals with the team. And prototyping. And I thought that a cook could do prototypes with this kind of, how you call it in English, in Spanish I guess it's plasticina, we call it in Portuguese, plasticina. Form, I think in English it's form. You see on the left side is a prototype and on the right side is a real food. So for me, that was really discovering that a cook is doing. So really in every profession, we can prototype with the material we have available. And then the last principle, the holistic perspectives. Designers try to understand the complexity of a project, not only details, but look to the whole picture. So here you have a map from Ferran, a map of the culinary process, and then on the two sides, you see, of course, somebody put it a little bit nicer, a little bit more organized, but both really manually and digitally helps to get us an overview about complexity. So these are the principles. And now I want to present you some visual models. As you know, models are helping to explain complexities. So a creative process, as design thinking process, is a really complex process. Models are trying to simplify it, that we can actually share the process, that we know in which phase we are, but also it's very important to give some systemic to people who are starting this process. So the first models were developed in the 17th. At the time, they were not called design thinking models, but creative problem solving models. This was in the States, in Buffalo. One of the most famous models is from Osborne Palm. What is important in that model you see on the left side is that the first time somebody showed that divergence and convergence, above all divergence, is not only happening when we are creating ideas, when we're generating ideas, but in every phase of the process. So when you look for informations, there are moments you are divergent. Divergent means to look to a lot of possibilities. And then there are moments we are convergent, which means we are selecting, we are analyzing. And the whole design thinking process is always an alternation between divergent, convergence, divergent, convergence. So these symbolic were used in the model of the British Design Council, the double diamond model, which divides the design thinking process in 4 phases: discover, define, develop, and deliver. Of course, in the middle of all this are happening a lot of things. So here we have the discover divergent phase, the define convergent phase, and again, develop divergent and deliver convergent. Actually, when I were doing my PhD thesis, I analyzed some models, and at the beginning I were working with that model. But then there was a problem with translation to Portuguese because the last D, deliver, is not working in Portuguese. So because it's entrega, as in Spanish, entrega, I guess. I thought, oh, perhaps it would be interesting to try another model I started to analyze a lot of models to see what is the important part to be in a model and how it's possible to improve it or to make it more practical for our use. So I analyzed the 3I model from IDEO, which is inspiration, ideation, implementation. What I didn't like so much in that part is that the first phase, which is a lot of work, is called inspiration. And it seems a little bit, today I'm inspired, tomorrow I'm not. Actually, Edison said this famous phrase, in the creative process, there's only 1% of inspiration, but 99% of transpiration. So I thought it is not really happy to call a phase inspiration, but ideation and implementation is great. So how we can, adapt that in another kind of model. Then we have these 2 models from the D School in Stanford and in Germany. I don't know why, but they're not using the same model, but they're very, very similar. They both have the empathy phase, in one called empathy, in the other understand, observe. And then both define or point of view, which is actually the same. And then the ideate, prototype, and test phase, it's the same. In Potsdam, there is a model they wanted to show that the process is not linear, but it's iterative. So there are a lot of back loops. So you can generate ideas, but then you understand you have, again, to look to the point of view, change, perhaps observe again, perhaps to understand again better the problem. And then you go further again. So in 2012, then what we did, that the kind of synthesis of all that, and decided to create a model with the name evolution, because the creative process is an evolutionary process, and as evolution starts with an I, we wanted to use this letter I, because in Portuguese it also works. So we divided the process in 6 phases, which is emergence, which is a moment when you identify an opportunity for a new project or a new business. Then empathy, when you know better your context and your user, your final public. Then the experimentation, where you generate ideas, try them out, improve them. And then the elaboration, when you work on material and semantic solutions. And then the exposition, when you communicate your ideas to somebody. And finally was the implementation. Here we call the extension, which is a phase when the ideas, the new concept is implemented. And you see on the right side different tools. And you see by the color association that we made a choose of tools for each phase. This is actually what differentiates these from the others. There are tools connected. Of course, this is not a recipe. These are not the only tools. It was a choice we did, because that by experience we understood these are the tools which are more often used in these phases. But in every project and every training, we look to the project and then we make a choice of the tool effectively apply. Yes, until here. And then in our research project, what we did, we compared all these models and actually understood it is the same all. It doesn't matter if a phase is called discover or empathy or emergence, or what is important is that you know what is happening in each phase, that you know if you are in a divergent or convergent moment, and if you know to apply in an adequately way the tools which are available in all these models. And all these models are using the same tools. So it is more important the knowledge of the facilitator who is helping through the process than actually the model you are choosing to work with. But we can discuss this perhaps tomorrow or later. This is my opinion. I don't know what you think about it. We will see. So then in 2015 came another design thinking model. Again, the 3 I's, inspiration, ideation, implementation. But here IDEO calls it a human-centered design model. So they don't call it design thinking. This is actually a toolkit which is available online for free, which is for designers, which I like very much. It's really, really good designed. So have a look to that also. And then the D School in Paris made actually a mixture of different models and created in a little bit in the aesthetic of the D School from Germany, this design thinking process model, which is a little bit some more phases. Actually, here you can see in the last phase in the implementation that the business model got in it. And I think when we want to use design thinking for business innovation, it's important that we finish the whole process with a new business model. So it has to be in the process, and the other models didn't included it. So what I wanted to show you now a little bit, of course, the case studies I have and the experiences I have, we work with this model, with our evolution model, but try to abstract from the model and concentrate more on what's happening through the process. Actually, I forgot to explain you something. Our model is the E6 square model. So the square signifies, it's symbolic. If you look on the top of the right side of the model, you see evolution 6 squared, exploration, evaluation. So in our last version of the model, because even models are evolving, so this now our model is in a new version from 2017. So we included, we put in front of every tool if this tool helps more in a divergent phase or more in a convergent phase. So you find these little symbols explaining that. Okay, so the first case study I show you it's a very short project. It was a 2-month project, so quickly to show, which was design thinking applied in business innovation. The client was a state agency, which now calls itself LM Kappa. When they came to us, it was another name I will show you. So these agents came with a desire to reinvent the state agents, because in Porto, I don't know how it is in Spain, the image of state agents is actually very bad. Some people even say they are kind of double agents, because they might make a kind of game between trying to sell and presenting the person who sells a house, but also presenting the person who wants to buy one. So it's a kind of double agent. So they came and said, let us see what we can innovate, that the image of our state agents is getting better. So what we did with them in the beginning was a lot of research, of course. So we did a lot of media research, seeing what is the tendency in state agents, concepts, innovation projects, and we did a kind of, we have some templates where everybody in the team wrote down what they discovered through that research. Then we shared the whole research. In the team were 4 people. And then we did a trend matrix, which is actually the first part, the research was divergent, and then the trend matrix helps us to be convergent. So we organize all what we discovered by drivers. I will not explain the whole matrix, just go to the first driver. You see technology, actually it's in Portuguese, and then you see formally, which means in the past they used journals, phones, and local shops to communicate with their public. Currently, they use the internet, of course, and also applications, mobile phones, and they have these placards in front of the buildings and some 3D. And what is emerging, of course, is more applications with GPS, also 3D virtual reality. So when we do a project, it's important to know what is used currently, but also what is emerging, because we do projects for the future, not for the present. So from that on, then We did inspiration board, which you see on the little picture on the top, and then which is a tool we really use frequently, which is an opportunity mind map. So it's a mind map to identify opportunities. So you see in the middle it says immobiliaria, so this is the whole ambience of state agents, and then we divided in different categories and explored the whole concept. On the yellow post-its you see the opportunities which were identified. So the most important opportunity for them was to create an agent or concept for an agency which divides this concept of double agents. So they decided we want to present only people who want to buy, not people who want to sell. Okay, from that on, then they had to go to the empathy phase to understand if people who are looking for houses really feel that problem of the double agent. And more important, how would react the other agencies if one agency only represents a part of them. So we did a lot of interviews, a lot of conversations, informal conversations, but also very structured interviews, then compared all the results, and also did, actually I did it, I simulated that I'm looking for a house and did a journey, a user journey map with the agency which they were most admiring to get some insights of strong points and not so strong points. So the conclusion of that was that we found out that first the user, the public, didn't really found that as a problem. So people who bought several times houses, they said, yeah, okay, the agents are representing me, but also the other person, that's not a project, it's not a problem. So what they thought is a problem, suddenly we understood it was not a problem, not a real problem. What we also understood is if they don't have a product, because they're only representing the buyers, so from where they will get the houses. So they would have to do partnership with other agencies. But then the question is if other agencies want to do that and want to give them the houses. So all that puts them actually in a kind of crisis. And then they made a kind of, they stopped the project like 3 weeks. And then they came back and said, okay, with this, we want to continue the process and we want just to make our agency something more special. Like we don't want to be only state agents, but we want to be really consultants, state consultants for investors and for other kind of clients. So here you see on the left side, they had two companies before, which was Immocadi and Resultado Optio, awful graphic identities. So first thing was find a new name, which actually reflects this new way of presenting the agency. So we did a lot of idea generation, brainwriting, and then organizing ideas. And then what they really loved was names like WTF. In Portugal, a big telecommunication company has a WTF program for young people, which is what the fuck, and it's a really big success here. So we analyzed other kind of these kind of expressions, and we found LMK, let me know. So let me know seemed very good. Let me know what you need. Let me know what you're looking for. Let me know how much money you have, etc. So that was the idea which was a winner. And they checked it, and it was free actually, and they registered it immediately. And then came the process that we had to try out graphic solutions for that. And one of the team really loved travel, so the travel tickets gave us an input by analogical thinking to create some ideas. So this is a mood board which was created here. And then in the elaboration phase, of course, the logo, as you can see here, also kind of graphic context with some phrases like, let me know as soon as possible, let me know what you want, etc. And then you can see also the visit card from one of the team, and you see also a placard, a board on a house. How it looks a little bit with the texture like Louis Vuitton, so they want to show some exclusivity and put themselves really in a high part of this kind of business. So here actually you see a logo in between all the other logos from state agencies in Portugal. And you see it's the only one in blue, and it really looks a little bit different and stands a little bit out of that. And in the extension phase, we did also an implementation map, which helps them to decide. And actually, they are still in this process to a bigger team, the whole communication, the actions. They are looking at the moment for a new space to receive people, etc. So this was one example I wanted to share with you. And if I still have time, you have to tell me. I haven't controlled the time. I have a second example. Jorge, can you give me feedback?
But they will have you here tomorrow.
Okay. That's fine for me. So tomorrow I can show you an example how we train managers in design thinking from a real client. So I don't know if we have some time for questions. In that case, I would finish here.
If anybody has some questions, you need to come to the front because we don't have. Any questions? Anybody? Or you prefer to make the questions tomorrow when Katya's here? Maybe? Okay, good. All right. Thank you very much, Katya. We will see you tomorrow here. And
okay.
I'm sure they have a lot of questions for you, but they're shy. And now we're going into our next presentation with Gary. What I can never pronounce your name.
So
fun.
Hi Gary, nice presentation, and see you all tomorrow, guys. Bye.
Bye bye, Katya. If I'm broken? Okay, the microphone's yours. You can use that one if you prefer. Yeah. 2. I have. You have until 6 and 7?
I have to see how to put it up.
Free beer at 7?
Yeah. You.
So if we can get
Okay.
have a clip on. No clip-ons. All right. I like to walk around, so this is going to be a challenge. How long is this cable?
I don't know.
I like to get involved with
If you told me that before, I would have it.
Sorry, man. I'm really sorry. I'm a little disorganized, I know. Okay. Please sit down. You completed the first task successfully. Well done. It's not what they drive that counts, but what drives them. What do you think I meant by that statement? It's not what they drive that counts, but what drives them. Get it? Not native English. I don't expect you to get that. So let's be honest, how many of us didn't quite get it? Okay, yeah? It's not a failure, this is just for me to understand. Got it? Maybe I'll sit down nearer the mic. Okay. I will say it again in two parts. It's okay, it's difficult. If this was in Spanish, that's the point. I couldn't translate this into Spanish. There's the proof of, the nuances of the language, which actually is also these nuances of language, culture, this diversity that we have is also part of research and some of the challenges of research. So not just the wording, its meaning and how we interpret it. It's not what you drive that counts. Who here drives? Right, so you know what that part is. If you can drive, you may have owned or driven a vehicle at some point, hence why you got the license. Okay, good. So if that's not the part that counts, but what drives you? What do you think I mean by that? This is audience participation. I accept audience participation. Huh? Motivations. All right, excellent. Motivation. What? Purpose, motivation. Anything else? Desire, yes. Okay. Fear. Well, fear is a type of motivation, yeah. Passion. Goals. Okay, yeah. Okay, so you figured it out. Now you understand the quote. Great. If there's anything else, so if you can switch off now, and we'll come back in 50 minutes, that's the only thing I want you to really memorize and understand what it truly means. So we're going to spend the next 50 minutes together. Yeah? Okay. We have the... It's cozy there, I like it. It's intimate. Even the people at the back, I can just whisper and they get it. It's really... If they whisper back, I have no idea, but it's fine. So my name's Gary van Broekhoven. Is there anyone Dutch in the room? All right, so you actually know how to properly pronounce my name. Thank you. I don't. My dad does. But my mum's English, and she didn't let me learn Dutch. She had this paranoia that, me and my dad would be secretly talking about her or something. And she'd probably be right, So yeah, she was right. But it did mean I lost out on the opportunity of a new language. I speak Spanish. I've been here for nearly 20 years, so I should speak Spanish. Otherwise, I don't know. That's lame. I work in research. Actually, I'm head of CX, or head of customer experience, head of design and innovation, call it whatever name you want to give. Actually, my official title is vice president of. The moment they said vice president, I just changed that. Not even my Instagram says that. Not my Instagram, my LinkedIn says that. Because I thought, what the hell is a vice president? What do they do? So I removed that and gave the name that us Europeans, we kind of... Oh. Oh, hello? Oh, okay. So I've grown emotionally attached to this. I'm sorry. All right, it was such an effort as well. And I showed up late. I mean, that's really unprofessional. Admittedly, I've just come back from Cambodia, working out there. Anyone here from Cambodia? Camboya in Spanish? Yeah, some of you? One of you? No one? Zero? Okay, that's fine. That's a really hard language. Really hard for someone like me, because it's so, the pronunciations of the words. I mean, every time I got into a tuk-tuk, I was going, "Buy dollar," which means 3, by the way, in Cambodian. We all knew that, but even they were correcting me. And I thought, how hard is that? Dollar, I'm sure I pronounced that bit right, but apparently not. So anyway, again, it goes back to these nuances of language and culture. So today I want to spend 50 minutes talking to you about research, but I don't want to talk to you about the stuff that you pretty much know. I think you know how to research, right? You got a laptop? Yeah, so the digital stuff, that part you can pretty much do. Where do you go to find your research? What? Google. Google, yeah, absolutely, I do too, yeah. We're professionals here, we can be brutally honest about where we steal our research, yeah. So Google, where else? You ask people, excellent, that's great. This is actually what the rest is of this is going to be about, how we ask people. Where else? Social networks, absolutely. More? Reading forums. Have any of you ever tried Amazon reviews? That is what, well, that was my secret place, but damn it. Turns out half the room already knew. Amazon reviews is amazing. And Twitter and these other places, it's amazing. And actually, in fact, whenever we start a project, and just so you know a little bit about the sort of projects we do, we work for really big brands. In fact, so the company I work for is called DMI, and it's an innovation consultancy. We are global. We have about 2,400 staff. So I think that makes us one of the world's largest. Yet, funny enough, most people have never heard of us. I think that's because most or half of our staff actually work exclusively for the US government. It's kind of weird. I never thought I've never met them. The funny thing is that half don't even get to have company ID, social media, nothing. So I've never even met these people. It's all secret. Half the companies are secret. We work with 50 of the top 150 US retailers, so Macy's and Bloomingdale's and all those sort of companies. We also work a lot in healthcare, so think of AXA, Sanofi, I don't know, the list actually goes on in healthcare, which is actually my passion, by the way. I'm hugely passionate about healthcare. And so let's see, healthcare, transport, big car brands, yeah, we work with all of them, but the thing what we specialize in is the digital transformation parts. No, that does not mean we just build them an app. We're quite expensive for app building. We do the entire thing. So front and back end. In fact, I believe we are the first world, it's American, so there tends to be this, we are the first world thing. So we are the first world end-to-end something or other. Just check out the website. But you can see the sort of projects that we do. They're normally very, very large, so global projects. We have a team, as you know, it's a global company, 2,400 staff, so we have people in literally a lot of countries. Yeah, on a whole host of different projects. We don't do many ONG type work. I would love for us personally to do a lot more of that. We don't. I know part of it's because there's just not the money and it's very much, you know, the bottom line, it's a business. There's only one reason why it became 2,400 people, was because it had the funds to support it. But I would like for us in the future to do that. We have lots of challenges, loads of them. And one of the biggest challenges is that historically, so I'm quite new to the company, historically, they did just online research. And if they didn't do online research, they did questionnaires. Now, I have a personal hate against questionnaires. Maybe it's just my thing. Maybe some of you in the room have done questionnaires and you get it. You know exactly why I hate them. I'm not saying that they're useless. Do them. There's actually something that the person, Olga, right? Olga, was that her name? Katya, clearly, good memory for names. Katya, actually, she had something, a little example about how she was doing her user research. And it said, interview guide. And I thought that was brilliant. It wasn't a questionnaire, it was a guide. And that, I believe, is definitely the way forward. By the way, I'm talking, but please, feel free to let me know you're alive and you have a question. this is a two-way thing. But here's the thing. The reason why we find it hard, and actually 20 years in industry, most of my peers have always found it hard, and actually me too. I'm not going to suddenly make out I'm amazing. No, I actually still struggle. Is that one-to-one interview. And I think you've got a guide, but you're going to improvise a little bit. That one-on-one is a bit, with a total stranger, I guess it must be a bit like speed dating or any other kind of dating. That first moment, it's like, and it's like that. But you, in a very short period of time, have got to gain a massive amounts of insights. So how do you know what the hell to ask? How do you know? And one of the most common problems or areas that I've seen that even myself, you know, I've been through there and I've made 101 mistakes to come to where I am today. One of the big problems is we lead with questions, as in they're leading questions. We have an assumption in our head and we kind of just want to validate it. And sometimes we validate it by asking the wrong kind of question. Something like, I don't know, give me a product, give me a service. We'll just make one up on the spot. I'm looking at you. Feel free to come up with the idea. Oh, I'm looking at you now because she's not answering. You're next to her. Somebody. I'm just keep looking at people. A cell phone delivery, what, you mean like food delivery? Okay, so food delivery. So I'm a service designer, my client is a food delivery company, and I, of course, think, oh, you know, I want to do the project and I want to make it better and bigger and stuff. So I say, so what was your name? Dora. Hi, Dora, how you doing? Great. And so we sit down and we start our conversation. And I say, so Dora, do you use a delivery, you know, food delivery service? Yes. Okay, which ones do you use? Okay, mostly German ones because you come from Germany. Okay. And do you like the service? That was an error, by the way, right? You know that was a wrong question to ask. Do you like the service? Partially. Okay, great. Great. On a scale of 1 to 5, how would you rate the existing service? See, that wasn't my questionnaire. Which part? Just part of it. The whole service, I guess. A 3. I hate the scales of numbers. It's like, what the hell? You know when you go to the bank at the moment? What the hell is that about? I have two kids. For them, it's their favorite toy. And we walk in and I just say, go to the customer, you know, service point. And they just start clicking on the buttons and there's questions and they're just learning to write. So they're like, pling, plong, pling, yeah, blah, blah. And off they go clogging up. And actually, I just want to check, do you all know what I was just talking about? Please raise your hand if you're not quite sure. I'm also English, so I talk a little fast. You all understood. You know, in the banks or at the airport, those customer points, click on one of these colored buttons with a smiley face. Right. I get really upset when there's 4 buttons because it's, you know, the 2 extremes I get, but there's those difficulty ones in the middle where I'm like, I don't know. A 3. The 3's not on my scale of, there was only 4. Those things, I have no idea if any company generally believes that's authentic customer service, then they clearly have no idea about talking to customers. One of the things I actually do, sorry I'm deviating, I know, but it's just what my thoughts are here, and I don't want to forget. One of the things that I normally do when we start a project or an engagement with a client, and it doesn't matter if they're $1 billion bank or something quite small, the first things I do is I will go express my stress to the marketing department or business intelligence department. And I'll say, what do you, because they of course don't like me, because I show up and say, oh, we're going to tell you so much more about your customers. And they're like, who the hell are you to come in and tell us about our customers, especially things that we don't know? It's our 9 to 5. This is what we live off. So you as a service designer, researcher, come in and say, yeah, no, it'll be new stuff. You won't know it. Like what? I don't know yet. I don't know. But we're going to find stuff. That's really hard to explain that that's going to cost them 50,000 euros, by the way. But anyway. So you go in, and the first thing I do is say, well, actually, you're right. I have to confess, I don't know anything about your customers. So what we're going to do, and this is what I thought would be fun and really educational, is if we could all, the marketing department, go to the call center, put on headsets, and go and have meaningful conversations with those customers. And they're like, sorry, why? Well, because you want to know about your customers, right? So, well, we have surveys. So, well, who fills out the surveys? You know, here's the thing, banks love surveys. Who here loves a survey when they go to their bank to check their bank balance? Right, one. One out of pretty much 100. Right, there we go. Who here finds it annoying, the survey? Right. So your bank is actually annoying you, and that's how they get close to you as a customer, by annoying you. If your partner just got close to you by annoying you, eventually you would dump them. Right? So why are businesses doing that? So I say, yeah, go get the headsets on. They hate that because they've got to mingle with the poor people. You know, oh, God, I'm not going to that call center. It's disgusting. So I force them to put the headsets on. No, it's true. You think I'm exaggerating, but actually, I really get this real sense of this sense of superiority. You know, we're high earners. We don't go down there. Down there, it's a hire and fire. It's a sweatshop. So, well, actually, those are the people who know more about your customer than you do. So, you know, you want to build something, go find out about your customers. And actually, we went down. So I'll give you a couple of real stories. More than 2 years has passed, so I'm legally allowed to say more about, I can divulge because you get your NDA. You're not allowed to say anything for 2 years. One of them was actually one of the world's largest bathroom manufacturers. And in the times of the crisis, the last one, not the one that's about to happen, the last one. So, and you know, and they said, yeah, we don't know what's going on. We don't know who to sell to because people aren't buying new houses and they're not getting refurbishments. You know, they're not doing their houses up. So how do we talk to our customers? Who are our customers? You know. So I spent several days in shops, listening and talking and observing salespeople. I don't know why the marketing department didn't do this, but anyway, I went to their salespeople in the shops, and I sat there and I had conversations like I would like to think you and I are having, and it became really obvious something. You know, you start asking, tell me about your customer, open-ended questions. Tell me about your customer. Very crucial. I didn't say, do you like your customer? Just tell me about your customer. I want to hear your language. I want to hear how you describe, how you categorize different customers. Why should I be the one to create these personas? You can actually do half the work for me. How do you, if I even do that, even with my hairdresser? Try that with your hairdresser, for those with hair. It's very funny how they describe their customers, or taxi drivers. And so we're there, and they said, yeah, they're mainly women, you know, the buyers, the customers. Okay, can you tell me a bit about these women? And, you know, and they're describing the whole story. And I said, well, what other kind of stories do they talk about? You know, those kind of loose stories, which, by the way, the most valuable piece of information. Those loose bits that they think they're not being somehow judged, or they're just making comments. And they say it's quite funny how many of them talk about their children leaving home. And they think, children leaving home, what's that about? I say, well, how old are these people? Well, you know, they're kind of in their 60s. Okay, wait. And you quickly, you know, start Googling, and you'll find that, or any of you who have studied psychology, you already know about what I'm about to say. There is a syndrome called an empty nester syndrome. So you're of that age that maybe half of this room was the cause of the empty nesting syndrome of your parents or your mother. And for a little time, you'd left the nest, and she was like, who am I? I'm no longer mama. And they have to spend that sort of period going through and find the new identity. And one of the first things they like to do when they really overcome it, like when we overcome many things in life, is we want to externalize that change, that mental change, into a contextual, physical change. And they go and get a new bathroom or a new kitchen, or if they can afford it, both. And then the client changes his entire marketing communication strategy, its adverts, to telling that story. Then sales changed. I didn't know anything about their customer. I still know little about their customer, but what I do know is that, and that was a game changer. And the only way I figured that out was by going to the ground where the customer really is. That's the only way you can really do it. You can do as much Googling as you like, but that's where it really is. The front line. Another story, a bank. A well-known bank, orange in color. How many are orange in color? I don't know, shit. Okay. It's been more than 2 years, it's fine. So I was at ING, and and I said the same to the marketing department. They hated me. This was in Madrid, this one. And we went downstairs for a couple of days, and they were asking questions. And they were getting really good at it. I'll give them credit. They were smart. They were just using the wrong process. And I think what Katja was really explaining was absolutely right. You get the process right, half your job is done. So we changed the process. One-on-one interviews, the headpiece. Hello, good afternoon, sir. And then what happened was this. They started to see something. And I said, so what is it you're seeing? And they said, well, we don't know, but we keep seeing that actually the people who are opening the specific bank account are actually their parents, not them. And I said, well, here's the thing. Behavior happens for a reason. The question is, what's the trigger? So they started asking, interviewing, trying to figure out what's the trigger behind the behavior. By the way, behavior requires 3 things to happen. The right motivation, which you guys were talking about earlier at the beginning, ability, and the trigger. Right? If you're not sure, look at B.J. Fogg's, Dr. B.J. Fogg's work. If you want to get into research, memorize his work, and your life will become so much easier. And so what's the trigger? What's the moment that creates the change? And so they started asking the questions, and they discovered that actually everyone who was opening up this particular bank account were pregnant. And the people who were opening it were their parents. And they were opening it for the newborn. The next day we did a test. We ran some Facebook ads. Great way to test Facebook ads. So we ran some Facebook ads, and lo and behold, huge success. Again, I didn't know anything about their customers. I took them to the problem and helped them, guided them to find, and I then helped them shape what that really meant. And I think sometimes as researchers, they are your biggest asset, working with both sides of the equation. Get them together and you be the observer. That's a great technique. So you don't actually have to ask too many questions. But, who here smokes? You had a really shy hand. Are you introverted by default, or would you describe yourself as an introvert? No? Quite extroverted? Come on. Let's just see what it looks like. I think because I can be up here talking and I can give you a PowerPoint. I hate PowerPoint, hence why you haven't got one. So I think, why don't I just show you how this could look? We need the mic. I believe we need the, here's the mic. Let's move up a little bit. Relax. Are you feeling bad for smoking?
Excuse me?
Are you feeling bad for smoking, or is it, why are you saying shit?
No, I do.
No. I'm not going to convert you. Okay. All right. No questionnaire.
Don't get scared.
Okay. You smoke? Okay. Fun, chill out. It's fine. You've only got 100 people staring at you. What can go wrong? Being interrogated. That's the thing. A lot of your clients actually feel interrogated, and you really have to approach this in the right way. He's a guinea pig. With you all staring at him, I don't expect this to go very smoothly. Let's be honest. He's probably losing weight right now. Okay?
I do.
Juan, don't worry about it, okay? All right. I'm going to look at him. Hopefully you can hear me. If anyone at the back can't hear me, please raise your hand. I'll look, okay? So we're going to use a little technique. I will do it, and then we'll go through the technique. I don't know what his answers are going to be. In fact, I just said smoking because it's something that someone in the room is likely to do. But I don't really, and like I said, I'm not here to convert him. We researchers, we're not converters, we're just researchers, we're data collectors. All right. Okay. Make sure I'm not drinking someone else's water. One.
Hi.
Don't run away. He's got wheels, the chair, and he'll end up in the corner. This mic doesn't stretch. Okay. All right, Juan. What we want to do is we want to go for his last memory. Okay, so we'll start somewhere to get a general picture, backgrounder, and then we want to go to a last memory, because the last memories are the most reliable memories in theory. Because if you ask someone about a service or their experience of a service they used 5 years ago, trust me, half of that was made up. Okay? Thing is, you don't know which half, nor do I. That's not very good data collection, is it? One. It's hard for me too, man. Look, I got this here. All right. So how long have you been smoking for?
Wow. More than 5 years, I think.
5 years. Okay, do you remember when you started? Okay.
I told you, okay, so it was like, I was a child.
Mm-hmm.
With my
5 years
friends.
ago, huh? You see how data collection
more
gets a
than 5
little,
years.
you go back in time and it gets a little,
So,
my dad, yeah.
you know, I wanted to
How
be
old were
like
you?
a bad boy.
How old were you?
I think 18 years old.
Okay.
Or 17.
Mhm.
Started at age 17.
Okay. Do you remember where you were?
Yeah, I was in a park next to my house. Buy some cigarettes, like illegal cigarettes.
Okay. And now you smoke how many a day?
I would say half a package a day.
Half a pack. Okay. Just so we're clear about this, as researchers, we don't take these
depends on
emotional
the day.
responses like, oh my God, get out of here.
Depends on the day.
You ain't a researcher if you're going to do that. Okay. Right, so half a day. Who was it who did that? Was that you? Who did that? That was really judgmental, eh? Okay, back in the room. Okay, Juan, sorry, man. Okay. So, about half a packet a day.
Yeah, depends on the day.
Okay.
If I'm stressed or if I'm partying or
Mm-hmm.
if I'm doing nothing.
Okay, so when do you smoke the most? You're partying. And how much would you smoke then? For data collection purposes, he said 1 packet a day. Oh my God. Okay. Right. 1 packet a day. Okay. Do you all smoke the same brand?
Yes.
Okay. That was for marketing purposes, not us as researchers. Okay. Interestingly, he tapped his pocket.
Yeah.
What? They're there. Okay.
Actually, I have it here.
Mm-hmm. Okay. No branding, please. Okay. Right. All right. Okay. Have you ever thought of quitting?
Yes, a lot of times.
Okay. Have you ever tried to quit? Never.
I'm thinking this year to do it, to stop it.
What is wrong with you? You can't do that.
Like,
Okay? Just burst out laughing in front of it in an interview.
That's a problem because I'm true to myself. I'm trying to be true to myself. So I love smoke. And at this moment of my life, I don't want to stop smoking.
Okay. What is it
Because
you
I
love
really
about
enjoy it.
smoking? What do you love about smoking? What feeling is that?
Like the first coffee in the morning. I don't know. It's impossible to.
So then why would you want to quit?
Hmm?
Then why would you want to quit?
For me, I know. And
Okay, so you've said that you would like to quit.
this year, yeah, I'm thinking.
Okay.
I'm gonna do it this
So this-
year.
okay.
I know.
Okay, so this year you want to quit. Okay. You've never tried quitting before? No. It's always good in interviews to just give him the feedback that he's given to you. Also use his language. So I'll try and adapt my language to his language. I won't use my own interpretation. That's got to be really careful, huh? Don't really make a real effort to not interpret what he said. And if you do, then feed it back. So if he says, I like smoking, I could say, what do you enjoy about smoking? So that's an error. I should say, what do you like about smoking? He said like, I use like. He says, I love, I use love. That's crucial, huh? Simple but crucial and easy to slip. I mean, I get it wrong sometimes, right? You're tired and whatever. You've got 80 people staring at you. Okay, so you want to quit. You said this year. Why this year?
Oh, I promised that I was bringing goal for me.
Okay, so you have a goal to stop this year. All right. When do you think you'll stop?
Maybe.
Okay. 31st December. Note to self. Okay. Okay. And how do you plan on stopping?
It's gonna be hard, I know, but stop it like deadly stuff. Cigarettes and no more thinking about it, and just trying to eat something when I wanna smoke. Therapies that you do.
Okay. Okay. Right. So what for you is about quitting smoking? What is the hardest part?
Smoking.
Yeah, but what do you think will be the hardest part?
I don't know. Be with my friends and things and smoke it.
Okay, so it's about having a drink with your friends. You'll find the hardest part.
Like
Right. Okay. So, okay. 2 last questions. What do you think you'd gain if you stopped smoking? Put the microphone closer.
I know it'll be more. I could ride more bike. I can spend so much money in cigarettes. Yeah, the smell.
Okay. And if you don't quit smoking, what do you think you'd lose?
Shit. Yeah, man. Yeah, exactly. Be live. Maybe some people that I like, but they hate to smoke.
Okay. All right. Don't move. So that was the interview. I mean, okay, between explaining to you guys a little bit about what's going on and telling you off for your terrible judgments, how long roughly do you think, if we'd have removed all that, how long would this interview have been? 5 minutes, more or less? Sounds fair? Okay. So a 5-minute interview, 5 minutes. Sometimes when you have to stop someone in the street to interview them, that's all you get. So you need a formula that's going to help you gain some insights in those 5 minutes. Because this conversation could have kept going on and on and on, sure. And if you're lucky, you get to have an hour. If you're crazily lucky, very rarely, you get an hour and a half with someone. But normally, if you can max on an hour, you're going to be tired too. It's an hour of concentration, bam, 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 looking for insights, trying to investigative work is really hard work. All right? I did a few things with him, okay? And I used a process. The process, this is where you need your pen and paper, is called GRAMS. G-R-A-M-S. Grams, like the weight. The weight. Grams. 5 letters, 5 grams. Okay. So this technique, the way it works is G stands for goals. What was his goal? He said, in fact, let me ask, what was his goal? Who remembers? More specifically? This year. Even more specifically? Great, that's his goal. All right? Thing is, and here's the thing about grams, you don't have to use any order. That's the beauty of it. You just need to fill the boxes. Each one is an information or data collection box. Goal is one of them. Goal actually is normally one of the smallest ones. It's a simple one. It's often the title. You can often you'll find as you do more and more research using this method, you'll find that you can even separate and group people you interview into personas based on goals. It's not always the case, but you'll often find it happens. You go, oh, there we go. Look, I'm seeing a pattern on common differences in goals. R stands for reality. This is the biggest box, especially for service designers. What do we know about his reality? Correct? Absolutely. Yes. Anything else? More at parties? More accurately? More data? Okay. We even know the brand. No need to mention it. Well, his perception is he loves smoking, which we then found out later that maybe... Okay. So he says he loves smoking. Anything else? What else do we know about his reality? Well, he said that he thought that if he quit smoking, then he would swap it for eating. Yeah. Yeah. Yes? Yep. Yep. Anything more? Please. It's a social habit, yeah. So he really made a link to more of it was, so it's contextual. This is important. So change context, change behavior. I don't know if he said that. If he had a fear of missing out. Is that an interpretation of the data? Okay, so right now we're collecting the data, so we try to be cautious about our interpretation. It's an easy one to do. Most of us, I think, in the room are actually doing it in our subconscious. Right. Okay, what else do we know about his reality? A couple more things, 2 more things about his reality. Go for it. He started? Yep. Yes. On his, do you have a terrace or you just made that bit up? He has a terrace, okay. Are you single? Not for me, but for the... He's got a terrace. Check him out. Okay. And he's single.
Yes, I am.
You work out? Okay, sorry. All right. Now, so that's the G and the R. Now, the A stands for alternatives. This can sometimes sound like a tricky box. As the simplest way of remembering it, I always memorize that the alternatives stands for the future and the past. So I asked him a question, have you ever tried to quit before? I wanted to know what his alternatives could be from his new quitting moment, right? So have you ever tried before? What are his alternatives? He could have said, yeah, I tried acupuncture, but it didn't work. Okay, so there's one alternative that doesn't work for him. And I could have actually said, okay, so you're going to try this way. If it fails, what other things would you consider? So that's future alternatives. For the time, to keep it nice, sweet, and short, I didn't. But just remember, alternatives means past attempts at that behavior and future attempts. If you think for your client and you're interviewing, say, the stakeholder, the boss, the CEO, or the chief marketing officer, the CMO, or whoever, you could say, well, okay, have you ever tried with an agency before to do this job as service design research? And they may say, yes. Okay. Why are you not using them? Find out the story. Okay, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, GRA. We're going to skip M, because it's the last question I used, and for me it's the biggie. The next one is S. Stands for solutions, but be careful. Solutions. Be careful here, because people think that asking the person to solve their own problem is the way to go forward. Some people are problem solvers, and actually they'll let themselves know straight from the word go. They will say, you know what, this doesn't work. You know what they really need to do? They need to do this. I don't understand why the government doesn't do that or that. Why is this? Those profiles, yeah, they can solve it. They can provide ideas, but if you ask someone else, you say, so how would you solve it? They're like, I don't know, isn't that your job? Yeah, you're right, it is my job, yeah. So what do I mean by solutions? I mean, of all the problems that maybe in an hour you've collected and they've talked about, what's the 1, 2, or 3 things we should be solving? And get a ranking. There's one research technique which is called card sorting. So when I was at American Express, this is one thing we did. So I went to the call centers there. As you can tell, I hang out in call centers a lot. Went to the call center there, and I actually got the call center staff to talk about the common complaints. And we card sorted. I said, so on Post-its, okay, here are 10 complaints, the top 10. Now put into order so that I can understand which ones that if we solve first will have the biggest impact. You know, you could give me 10 problems, but what one should I be solving? Okay, you can't always solve it all. If the budget allows, great, but normally you can't. If you're lucky, 1, 2, or 3 things. So figure that out. And then the last one, M, is meaning. And here I use a technique. And it was the last 2 questions I used. Does anyone remember the 2 questions I asked? So what do I lose and what do I gain? So it's, I've heard it referred to as different names, this technique. I know it as Cartesian question. Basically, it's a plus plus and then a minus minus. So, works like this. If this person says to me, I want to quit smoking, then I will take that as a plus. Quitting smoking is a plus for him. So I say, okay, if you quit smoking, +1, what would you gain? +2, plus plus. And then I reversed it or inversed it. If you don't quit, what would you lose? Who remembers the answers? What was the plus plus? No. So money, health, smell, people, yeah, related to people who don't smoke, yeah. And sorry, his bicycle. He mentioned his bicycle. This is the first time we heard about his bicycle. We could have done a whole thing around that. But, okay. And what did he say if he hit the double negative? His life. Profounder, his life. So what's interesting is when you ask this question, it doesn't matter what the subject is, you'll see what you think it's going to be the same answer. But what often happens is there's a deviation. And you know when you really hit the mark, when they do something. Does anyone remember his body language just before, so just when I finished the negative, what was his body language? Did anyone pay attention? Sorry? Close his body. Well, he rotated his chair a bit. I don't know, some of you are recording, you could probably quickly rewind and put it up on the screen or something. He rotated, and his mic was down, and he kind of looked up and was like, you know. So different people respond in different ways. What I normally look for is the breath. So when I know what I've hit gold, there's a breath. There's a, when I see that is my clue that you've just opened the right door. And that's where I'll spend the rest of the interview. Let's go here. Okay, because this is where the reality is, the true inner reality. This is the stuff, like I said before, that it's not what they drive that counts, but what drives them. That is how you see what drives them. Okay? Okay. Fine. We've got 12 minutes, I believe. I'm happy to stay a little longer. I get free beer, but Any questions on that bit? Because maybe I just threw that at you. Just so you know, I don't have it here as a slide. I'm going to draw it. Thankfully, you're all really imaginative, so you're going to follow this absolutely perfect. It looks like this. Oh, I've got name, the person I'm going to interview. Any other bits of information? And then, and here's a question. Five boxes, right? So, at for the ground. Try it. I'm not saying one is better than the other, but I'm saying try both. Because I think what works is to figure out how's the hammers? Works and you find great insight. Bertie, why change it? It works. The problem I have with empathy maps is the same as my map I'm going to break out the data. In fact, what we do is we record all our interviews. We get permission. Then I can give you the data, or anyone, that audio recording. Let's be honest. Oh no, I'm going to cough in a minute. Oh, I can't believe I said that. So give it to someone else. They get post-its. They get the ground flat. They just start going, oh, that's a goal. That's reality. Oh, that. Well, as a reality, you can build a customer journey map. And the, you know, the M, the meaning, thoughts. Upgrade is actually better. The downgrade, the 4 version, wasn't good. Great. Thank you, Jim. You've done well. It's not easy to be interviewed like that. I kind of put him under pressure, the poor guy. Okay, questions about research methodology, how I do my research. Right, yeah, okay. I have a couple of different models that I use for that. I'm actually just trying to think of the latest one that I use. There are different, automatically there are different categories. Absolutely extreme users. I think it's called Noref. Noref? Someone's never used the product, N. O is a non-user. So they may have been a user, but they're not using it now. Is that right? Okay, I'm going to tell you who I interview. People who have never used the product. Ex-users of the product. This is where the gold is. Your ex-users have all the dirt, right? Like your exes do. Well, go find them, right? The people who are madly in love with the service, your client's service or your service, you know, go find them too. You know, get the two sides of the story here. Yeah, sure, your regular users, absolutely. I'm just trying to think if there's any more categories out of that. But yeah, like I said, I think for me, ex-users is actually the hardest one to get as well, by the way. Because how do you find them? I struggle with it. In fact, we always ask our clients, we always put the responsibility to finding people to interview in the hands of our clients. And because ultimately they know their client, their customers better than we do, so they can do that then. And then we say, yeah, we'd like, so normally on a project, a standard project, me and my team, we would go out and interview about between 35 and 45 people. That would be our gauge. Bear in mind, we're doing X users, non-users, occasional, that's the 0 was occasional, that was it. So non, occasional, regular, X users, and extreme users, NOREX, N-O-R-E-X. Okay, so they're the 5 categories, 5, 6 categories that we use. And we will talk about them, say, oh, this is a regular, or this is an X user, and it's like, oh, you've got an X user, lucky you. And we go out and interview, normally in pairs. If we're going to be interviewing, we try to be culturally sensitive as well, so bear that in mind. Also, in particular, interviewing women. So if in the culture, male, female, like say in India, for example, my experience, I've worked in 4 different cities in India, and all 4 cities I noticed that there was no male-female handshaking in the office place, in the workplace. So then you've got to pick up on that. You can't just go in and steam in and go, hi, let's shake the hand, if the culture doesn't really support it. You have got to be very, always whenever, so like I said, last week, Cambodia, not too long ago I was in Mexico. Yeah, you have to really do a localization kind of deep dive before you go. I actually find lots of hilarious YouTube videos as well. So the differences between Mexican and the Colombian or something. But it really helps you pick up the differences and go, oh, okay, I'm starting to understand a little bit. Okay, you're laughing. Hey, everyone has to find their way of doing their research. I've been told Colombians are more friendly. I've been told. I'm not making a judgment. Just to create some fire for tonight's beer drinking. Okay, more questions? Interview. Right. So I use the DISC model. Okay, if you're familiar with that. Some of you are nodding, so that's good. If you're not familiar with the DISC model, D-I-S-C. So the first thing I will do is try to establish as quickly as possible, that's how I made my selection, was on, that's why I asked you if you're an introvert, because I thought you were going to struggle up here, is I tried to adapt my communication style to the person I'm interviewing. So I quickly tried to identify if they are introvert, extrovert, task, or people-orientated. Normally, after a few sentences, you can pretty much figure that out. For example, you could say, how was your journey here today? And depending on how they describe it, you can pretty much figure out, oh, okay, you've figured out your DISC model, where they sit. So like I said, if you don't know the DISC model, it's a very simple model, really, really useful. And remember, you don't know how long you're going to have with this person you're interviewing. They might just walk off, get a phone call or something. Or it's often, if they're senior management, they cut it short anyway. So if you booked an hour with senior management, which is rare, they may show up and go, surprise, it's only a quarter of an hour. And go, so you need to be fast. And you need to adapt to their style quickly. I also try to mirror their body language as part of the rapport. I didn't swing. When I say match your body language, if he picks his nose, I'm not going to do it. Okay? Or keep scratching his hair. I'm not going to do that. But just general body language, yes. So if he crosses his arms, I'll do that. His legs, I'll do that. In fact, I crossed my legs. I saw him. His legs were open, and then I quickly uncrossed them. And actually, some people say, oh, is that not manipulating? I've got a quarter of an hour with this person. I need to get them comfortable in that time, comfortable enough to be really brutally honest with me. And I've done quite a bit of research in, say, emergency wards in hospitals. That's really tough. And you don't know what's coming through the door next. It could be a dead person, or it could be a kid who's 15 years old who tried to commit suicide half an hour beforehand. And you are, as a researcher, following every type. You may have an old lady who's come in with a really distraught daughter. The daughter may be, say in her 50s, and here's something, and actually the older lady has Alzheimer's. And But the thing about Alzheimer's, if any of you have ever worked in Alzheimer's, I've worked in Alzheimer's, is more often than not, the real patient isn't the person with Alzheimer's. And that's a brutal honest about the evilness of this disease that is growing. It's not that it's growing because it's like a virus that's spreading because you coughed on someone. It's because we're all living to the age where we're starting to get it, you know. And yeah, the largest group, I believe this is the largest group of clinically depressed people is, what's the correct category? I was about to say females, but actually it's not. It's just predominantly female. Is caregivers to people with Alzheimer's. And here's the thing, how do you identify when a caregiver is depressed? So I've done lots of research with doctors, interviewing doctors, and I work a lot with doctors actually, amazing people, and they said there's one clue. They haven't combed their hair and their clothes are the same as the last visit. Interesting, huh? There's the clue. How do you define your persona? I don't know anything about Alzheimer's, they do. But as a researcher, you go to them. They have the knowledge. You just have to ask the right questions that allows it to come forward. Sorry, that's a bit down. We can talk about something more fun. I used to design toys for Disney. I did. Actually, something about my career. You don't know anything about my career. Oh, yeah, time to finish my sentence. They know the deal. No beer, I go. I used to be head of design for an international toy manufacturer. So for Disney. And fascinating job. And then before then, I started my career designing gambling machines. Right, okay, so we're going back. He asked. Honey, what do you want me to do? Okay, right, we'll stop then, we'll stop. Okay, this is the last one. Okay, so I started my career as a, well, I wanted to be a psychologist, and then a week before going to university, I panicked, and I thought I might discover I'm crazy. And so I became a bellboy in Germany. I couldn't speak German, but at least it helped me clarify if I'm crazy or not. And then after that, I did a degree in industrial design, and then I went back to psychology. So I spent I spent the last 10 years studying psychology and collaborating with psychologists and living in the world of psychology. And for me, industrial design gave me design thinking. By the way, just last thing, this is it. This is it. This is to add to Katya, okay? She said something that was brilliant. She said, it's all pretty much the same. Do you remember she said that? And she's all, well, here's the thing. Design thinking, I did a bit of research on this. Before it was called design thinking, and before the Industrial Revolution, there was a French philosopher, 15th century, I can't remember his name, Google. He was a co-founder of the encyclopedia, by the way, quite smart. He said that all knowledge is derived by three things: observation, reflection, experimentation. Not being funny, but that's pretty much design thinking. The end. Thank you.
Okay, now we can have a coffee break of 15 minutes, and after that we're going to do a short team building activity, and you will start working on everything that Gary just showed you. At room 215.